full stop, is the Europa Conference League. The idea of the Europa Conference League, I've been on board for a tertiary European competition for a long time. Now, I will be honest and say that the name, I think we could have done a better job with. I'm not wildly sold on the name, but as a fan of football, of adventure, of excitement, of more clubs getting to experience the things that I got to experience when Fulham went on a European run in 2010 and sold me that dream in the Europa League. The reason why I think I fell in love with that competition so hard, the fact that more clubs are going to be able to take a road into Europe, I think has got to be an amazing thing for fans of those clubs. And ultimately, I look at football as the fans' game, right? We've spoken about it a lot this year. We've spoken about the fact that it belongs to fans, not to finances. And it belongs to fans, not boardrooms who have no idea what the soul of the game is about. And suddenly people are looking at the Europa Conference League and going, well, you don't want to be in that competition. And I'm saying, you're nuts. You're nuts. And we're starting to see the memes. We're starting to see the jokes. And I understand that, especially in the UK, you know, everybody it takes ages to get used to anything new happening. And for a while, everything is looked at as something new can't be worth value. But I look at this competition and I think you look at some of the names that are in it in terms of clubs who are experiencing this for the first time, clubs who are experiencing this journey for the first time. And I look at Santa Clara, right, who come from the Azores, which is, you know, some islands that belong to Portugal, but it's an archipelago in the middle of the sea, and they finished in the qualification spots for the Europa Conference League. And you look at their history, they've had one European run in their history, and that was in the Intertoto Cup in 2002, 2003. They're getting an opportunity to play Europa League football. You look at Servette in Switzerland, who nearly went out of business, who were relegated a couple of years back. They're looking now at the first time they might be able to qualify for a group stage in European history. You look at FC Slovako, who are obviously a Czech side. And they will play in European competition for the first time. You look at Sochi in Russia, they will play in European competition for the first time. You saw the celebrations at Union Berlin at the weekend when they qualified with a last-minute goal from Max Kruse, right, to qualify. And their last thing was they got to the second round of qualification for the UEFA Cup in 2002. Their only other runs were Intertoto Cup runs. These teams are getting the opportunity, and the fans of these teams are getting the opportunities to play in European competition again for the first time, you know, or for the first time in a lot of their fans' living memory. They will get to go on these adventures. They will get to experience the things. And I think it's got to be seen as a massive, massive up. And what the Conference League is basically, they've changed the Europa so it's a little bit smaller, and they've shifted the onus of club associations who are a little bit lower down the rankings to basically make it work. So the top 5 associations, 1 to 5, Spain, England, Germany, Italy, France, you imagine, they only have one team each in this competition. So at the moment, those teams are the likes of Spurs, Rennes, Union Berlin, Roma, and Villarreal. Although if they win the Europa League final, that spot will go. And then the next couple down, so you're talking your Portugals, your Russias, your Scotlands, your Denmarks, they have 2 clubs in it each. And then the sort of ones below that, so you're talking Switzerland, Serbia, Croatia, Belarus, Azerbaijan, Poland, these sides, they all get 3 in the competition. And it means that people are getting to experience things that they've not been able to experience before. And I think that's got to be seen as something great. And I was looking at one of the clubs that's qualified from Hungary, who are called Újpest, right? They play in purple, which obviously is a good start in terms of getting my heart on board. But Újpest were once a massive force in European football. They reached the semi-finals of the European Cup, which is obviously now the Champions League. They won the Coupe des Nations, which was basically the preliminary competition to the European Cup. They won the Mitropa Cup, which was a Central European Cup competition. And these are, aside, you know, Ferencváros are their biggest rivals. And you look at them and you go, you once were one of the giants of European football, and suddenly they're getting an opportunity again to go on this path, to go for European glory, to experiment with playing teams across the continent. And I just love that. I love the idea that they're going to experience it again, get that club back to a place where they're like, yeah, we're competing on a European front again. And all of the vitriol towards the Europa Conference League, people being like, oh, I'd rather not qualify. I think it's such snobbery. And like the idea that you wouldn't want to qualify for a competition and compete across Europe with some of these away days, some of these places for fans to go and experience new things, it baffles me. It breaks my soul a little bit.
Jack, question for you. Are they doing that thing, where if you finish third in your Champions League group, you drop into the Europa League?
Mm-hmm.
Does third place in the Europa League drop into the Conference League?
So what's going to happen now is there's a change of system. So in both the Champions League and the Europa League. So in the Champions League now, the third place team will play a playoff against the second place teams in the Europa League group stages to qualify for the knockout rounds, which will go down to 16. And in the same way, the third place team in the Europa League groups will play the second place team in the Conference League groups to get into the knockout rounds, where they will therefore play a round of 16. So 8 teams qualify automatically, the group winners for the knockout stages. And then the second place teams will play the third place teams from the Europa League in a playoff to join them. And then it will be drawn.
Okay. It's a bit like facing a relegation playoff, isn't it? If you finish second, you're like, oh, you might get relegated.
Yeah.
Down to the bottom. I wish they'd have called it the Europa Adventure League.
That would have been good.
I mean, it would have been amazing, and it would have allowed us to use Frodo memes from Lord of the Rings. But I think the name aside, I'm pretty pumped for this. I got to say, I'm pretty interested in the Conference League, and I'm not as into it as Jack, but I also don't really have this kind of snobbery, and it does perplex me, some attitudes towards this. A lot of clubs think they're above this, and they're clearly not, because you need to look at where you finish at the table, mate. That's kind of how I feel about it. And for Arsenal fans and Tottenham fans, and I couldn't believe that, like, at least half of them seemingly just didn't fancy it at all. Like, this is a great opportunity.
It's a great adventure. I think the snobbery comes from people who don't go. That would be my take on the matter. I think if you are a match-going fan and you go away with your club, the idea of going to Astana and going to Santa Clara or going to Servette is amazing, right? You're experiencing new things. Football's about experiences. It's about adventure. It's about learning. It's about meeting. It's about all of the above, right? And sure, it's about winning 100%. And you want it to be competitive. And we always ask for meritocracy, which is why we hated the idea of a Super League. But it's got to be about earning your keep. And if you finish 7th in the Premier League, then I don't know what more you want. Like you've reached this level, right? My final piece on this is Santa Clara, who I've mentioned already, could face Astana in Kazakhstan, right? Which would be a 17-hour plane journey from one to the other. It's probably the longest away trip of all time, I reckon, if he manages that one. So I'm just going to put it out there. If they do draw each other, I'm pitching an idea that someone just basically goes, right, go on then. You go on this journey with one of these teams to play it. And I think it'd be an adventure.
Definitely, yeah.